Everything is aimed there. And everything the district does, teacher preparation, coursework, any money that they spend, what they put in their library, has to be aimed at making sure that every kid hits those exit outcomes. The district puts together a team to develop that plan. Then the school board looks at it. If there's a discrepancy between the two plans, if the school board doesn't like what the team said, they have to try to form a consensus. But both plans, the approved one and the, quote, minority report, which is the unapproved one, go to the state. And the commissioner appoints a 3-person committee who will recommend which one is approved. And if the commissioner says that the district's plan does not meet the state standards, the state sends it back and says, do it over. And you keep doing it over until you meet the state standards that they won't tell parents anything about. Now, in the back of the regulations is a section called curriculum deficiency. Anytime a district does not do well enough in having the children meet the exit outcomes, the state can come in and force the district to implement what's called a corrective action plan. And if after a year it's not good enough, the state can take over. On top of that, we have Senate Bill 1268 that talks about it's the academic bankruptcy bill. Under what conditions the state can take over the local district, up to and including becoming the local taxing entity. There are a list of 6. Any 2 will do. One of the criteria says if a district is below the state average. Think about that sentence. Average means the middle. That means by definition half the districts in the state are automatically below the average. They've met the criterion before you start because that's what the word average means. The middle. One of the other criteria is if they can't pay their bills. Outcome-based education is phenomenally expensive. The state keeps saying there will be no extra money. That's because they haven't appropriated any at the state level. The districts now are starting to do their plans. We've heard $435,000 the first year, $750,000 the first year. 6 districts in the south side of the Philadelphia area got together and did a 5-year plan, $16 million. And that did not include student implementation. Outcome-based education is phenomenally expensive. It will put the districts into bankruptcy. State can take over. The goal is not local control. The goal is state control. Did the state know that? Yes, they did. When the state board put together these regulations, they held a series of forums, educational seminars where they brought in national experts to talk to them about what this would do. One of the experts was E.D. Hirsch from the Cultural Literacy Foundation. He said, putting together a common core set of learning goals will have 2 problems. One of them is it will decrease academic knowledge, and the second is it will go against the grain of local control. The state board did it anyway. But now they keep telling people, well, you've got all this local control, see, because you can write your plan however you want. Let's pretend that I come to your backyard and I park a Cessna airplane in your backyard. And I say to you, okay, you can write whatever plan you want, as long as, when you're finished, you have a Cessna airplane. And when you're all done, will your plan look like my plan? Yeah, or you won't have a Cessna airplane, will you? No. So what the state is saying is, here's the exit outcomes, here's the Cessna airplane. You can write whatever plan you want, as long as it looks like this when you're done. There's really only one plan. There's really only one set of standards. There's really only one set of goals. And all the districts are going to look the same, or the state has this very big hammer called academic bankruptcy that can take whatever's left of local control away from the parents. Remember the drug-free schools? You know, the districts heard that the state did it, but it really came from the federal level. And so if we have to work through the state up to the federal level, because this is really a push from the federal level down through the states. When this parent filed her complaint, and we wound up finding out that here was the mandate, and the mandate came from the federal level, she complained. She filed a complaint at the federal level against the curriculum in her local school district. And what the federal government said was, well, see, the federal protection doesn't apply because there's no federal money at the local district level. The federal government came to the state and said, do you want our money in your block grant? And the state, of course, said yes. And the federal government said, okay, here's the mandate. Federal money stopped there. State took the mandate. State turned around to school district and said, do you want our money in your school district? Yes. Here's the mandate. The federal money stopped at the state level, and so did the protection of federal law. But the federal mandates are jumping that line. And so what we have affecting local district policy in many areas is really a federal mandate and not a state mandate. It's a civil rights issue. You know, I had a reporter say to me, well, you're just mad because, you know, you don't want Marla Thomas talking to your kids. And I said, you know, this system gives whoever is in control of the state the opportunity to mold the character of the children to their values. Whether it's Mother Teresa or Adolf Hitler is immaterial. Neither Mother Teresa nor Adolf Hitler should have the right to mold every child in the state to their particular value system. That's the role of the families in the state. It doesn't matter whether you're liberal or conservative. It's a civil rights issue, you're right. Behavior modification is not liberal or conservative. It changes children to the state's desired response, and whoever controls the state controls the response. And one of the ways you do that is to start contacting school board members, to allow school board members to educate them on what's wrong, give them the gamblegrams, and encourage them to stand up as a district and tell the state no. We have districts that are actually considering suing the state. So if we could get more districts on that, it wouldn't cost any one district a phenomenal amount of money, and it would help back the state off. That's a good thing to do. Working with school board members is an important thing to do, and standing up for your rights in your own classroom with your own children is also an important thing to do. Yeah. If you lower the standards, the academic standards, then it's easier to get a higher graduate level, so your statistics get better. And the plans say that you bring all the social service agencies into the school, so you have a lot more control of the children, and that pushes more and more of the families away. One of the things that Boyertown says, and that is shown up in all the plans, is how they're going to remediate. And the way that they're going to remediate is that the children who don't meet the goals will be the children who are declared special ed. The special ed regulations are moving away from children who have a specific disability to children who do not meet the goals. The Boyertown plan, which is the prototype, says there's going to be an IEP, that's the special ed plan, for all students. In the new regulations, all students will achieve all student learning outcomes to the state standard. So if you have a child who's very good in science but terrible in art, they're going to have to be remediated in art. Where do you get the time? From science. So that all the individual differences for kids are eliminated because they all have to meet all the outcomes at all the level. It's a, you know, right now we have a bell curve. You know, we have below average, average, and then above average. Well, this levels it so everybody's average. So you take time away from things the child is good at to remediate them in things that they're not so good at. One of the things that I keep hearing from the advocates of this is that, well, see, we have to do this because all the families are doing a terrible job. And people say to me, well, how do you argue with that? I mean, there are two ways to argue it. First of all, we've got lots of schools that are rotten. So let's let them clean up their house before they move into my house. And secondly, schools can't become families. Schools have a very valid place in the life of a child to teach basic academic skills. It's something that children need, that is important, that schools have to do. And when schools leave that base and try to become a family, for a child at risk, they lose twice. Because they didn't have a family, now they don't have a school either. My child loses once because he has a family, but he didn't get a school. One of the things they say to us is, well, see, we have kids who come to school without breakfast and kids who are from, you know, disruptive families and all this kind of stuff. And that's true. But in the Depression, we had kids who came to school without breakfast and without shoes. And were from disrupted families. And the children who grew up in World War II had all their daddies go to war and lived in single-parent house where mommy was Rosie Riveter. And they were latchkey children and they lived in disrupted families. But the schools said, our mission, our goal is to teach academics so that these children, if they live in poverty, have the tools they need to escape poverty, to get out, to learn other ways of life. That's our goal, is to teach those academic skills. Our kids lose twice now because they're not getting academics and no school can be a family. The whole issue here is who owns the children. The more time you spend with the kids, the more control you have over the kids. It's about control. That's really what, when you boil it all down, that's what we come down to, is who controls the children of the next generation.